Hello Aqua friends. I wanted to show you the process that I went through with coming up with this nighttime bokeh effect, and I thought it would be interesting to show you guys my thought process. So I started off with having Christmas colors, and I put a first wash down of my red, greens, and golds. And then I just bought 1/2-inch stickers and I started putting the stickers all over the paper in preparation for my next layer of color. So I'm going back over the same areas with the reds, the greens, and the yellows, and pretty much keeping that in the same sections that I did. Just increasing the saturation really is what I'm doing by doing another coat of paint here. So once I had that fully painted, I let it dry completely, and then I added more stickers onto the second layer. And again, I'm coming in with a third layer of color. So these are my last layer of stickers that I'm putting on the paper now that it's dry. So now comes the nighttime effect, where I am putting neutral tint over the whole piece of paper. So once that's dry, I was very excited to peel off the stickers, but also disappointed that the paint really bled underneath the stickers. And so the bokeh effect is a pretty weak rendition of what I thought was going to happen. So I knew that these stickers just weren't a good mask is what it came down to. I think that it would have looked really cool if they did mask out those areas really well. But since I'm experimenting, I thought, well, I'm gonna take my damp round sponge, my 1/2-inch sponge, go over those areas and try to get the circular effect back a little bit. But what I found is that, yeah, it became more circular, but it's also picking up, as you see, a lot of paint because I have many layers on there. So I'm not getting that really nice pop of color that I want. It's pretty muted. And you know, maybe you guys know of some circular stickers that are a good mask and that will keep the paint out. It just so happens that these ones did not. So that's the final product, and it's a cool idea, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna take this idea and I'm gonna improve upon it. And I decided to try again with sort of a Christmassy card picture with a pine cone. So I did the same thing with the background, my reds, greens, and golds, and I used different circle stickers in order to see if this would work better. And I could already tell that it's a better mask. It is not going underneath those circles quite as badly. So I was disappointed because, as you can see, as it dried, it did go underneath. So I thought maybe it's from my fingers touching the sticky parts and it just became not so sticky. So then I decided to use a pair of tweezers so I wouldn't get my skin oils on the circles. And I went a step further and used the other end of my brush to burnish in those circles, especially around the edges. So that's what I'm doing. I'm pressing down on those circles and really burnishing them into the paper to help prevent. Now, how I made the circles is just with a 1/2-inch circle cutter and I am using that contact adhesive paper. So that's my trick on how this one really turned out a lot better than the first one. Better than just regular stickers. That contact adhesive paper does a really good job. So putting in my nighttime scene now with my neutral tint. So once it dried, I peeled off those stickers, and as you can see, the edges are much more defined. They're not as messy. The first layers of circles that I put down, those are the ones where it bled underneath. I didn't burnish those ones, and they're a little bit messy, and the edges are a little rugged on some of them. But as you can see, the color is so much brighter without all that black paint getting, onto those circles. So I touched up the ones that I needed to touch up, that the edges were pretty fuzzy. But I was really excited, and this was very promising when I saw that these circles were coming out so pretty like this. And having the different layers of the colors of red, like a little going from pinks to the really, really Christmassy red, just like how bokeh lights do reflect and have all these different wonderful colors in them. So once I've fixed up and touched up the bokeh, I'm adding in the foliage to this Christmas card. I'll talk about the colors that I used for this bokeh effect. The red is quinacridone red, as well as Scarlet Lake. The gold is Iso Yellow Deep, as well as quinacridone gold. And the green is Daniel Smith Permanent Green. And then the branches, I used Shadow Green, and my pine cone was just a mixture of some different browns. I used sepia and some raw umber and neutral tint. So after drawing in all the shadows and the petals and all the little textures of the pine cone, this is how it turned out, which, like I said, I don't think is bad, although the edges could be improved upon on that bokeh because they're still a little fuzzy, but at least the color was so much better. So third time's a charm, so they say. So I decided to use hot press paper, and this was another major trick to share with you that really worked out well with the contact adhesive circles that I made using the circle cutter. So again, the system is the same. I'm wetting my paper with all these Christmassy colors. Big difference is that I decided, instead of using the cold press, which has still a good amount of texture, that I would switch to hot press, and that would probably help with the circles. So I'm burnishing in those circles again with the end of my brush, and I'm really giving it a good go with pushing down on that paper, especially around the edges. I'm being very careful. And another tip is, if you are going to make circles, your own circles with the adhesive paper, trying to get the paper off of the sticky part of the adhesive paper works really well with tweezers, not so much with your hands. It took me twice as long until I figured out using the tweezer saved me a lot of time, as well as the oils don't get on the circles, so it has a better contact to the paper. So from here the process is the same. I am putting in my second coat of colors. I did this 3 times so that you get the light bokeh lights, you get mid-tone bokeh lights, and then the final layer of the watercolor is, you know, I have the green as it's gonna get, and I have that Christmas red that's nice and really bright Christmas red. So this is the second coat. Let it dry, put more stickers on. What you're seeing here is actually my third coat of paint. Okay, so there's lots of stickers that you put on. Just, you know, doing it in these different layers, almost like negative painting, how negative painting works in watercolor. But I'm just doing it with stickers. And it's really cool when you overlap the circles. Make sure you do that, because that's a really nice realistic touch, because a lot of bokeh lights blend into one another. Now, once I have all the circles on and everything's burnished really well, my paper's dry, my last coat is the neutral tint. And that's the nighttime scene that I put over the whole paper. You guys will have to let me know in the comments below what you think of my technique for making nighttime scene bokeh. I hope you are enjoying the video. And you could already tell from the stickers like how crisp those edges are. They're really, really nice and crisp. If you want it really, really dark, you could even probably go with 2 coats of the neutral tint, but I didn't. Because you burnish those on and, you know, really really press them into the paper, it's a little bit of effort to take them off, but not too bad. Doesn't take long. So really happy with the edges of these circles. They're very, very crisp, and the color is pure. There was no contaminants from the neutral tint, and so it looks really nice and bright. For my ornament here, I'm using pure Scarlet Lake, so getting that really dark Christmassy red. And then for the reflections and the shadows on the circle, I used neutral tint again. So the only solution to getting the gold part of the bulb was to lighten the paper, and the only way I'm going to be able to do that, because it's a nighttime scene, and do it efficiently, is I decided to use an acrylic pen in order to draw in the white area that I need, hence sort of getting back the white of the paper. for the gold part on the top of the ornament. And it worked out really good because it took the paint really well when I went over that area with the yellows that I used, the iso yellow and the quinacridone gold. For the branch, I'm just using the Christmas green that I'm using, that permanent green, as well as shadow green and neutral tint. It's a pretty dark scene, so for the pine needles to even show up, I had to go dark, really dark with that neutral tint. I especially like how you put the pine needles over top of some of those circles. It really brings that branch in the foreground. So thanks so much, guys, for watching and for signing up with your email. I do really appreciate it. I'm learning a lot of stuff on the website so that I could get a little community going for us so we could share our work. So again, I thank you so much for your support, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I will see you next week.